When we're in the dark night of the soul, most of us have unexplainable experiences. I was remembering one that happened during my dark night that was entertaining, but also quite impactful. There was a great coffee shop where I was living at the time. It was a combination cafe and bookstore, and I loved hanging out there. As I would walk around the books, one would grab my attention. The selections were random, but I trusted the guidance. One day, the book that lit up for me was called the Recovery Bible. I hesitated, not knowing why I would be led to a book by the founders of AA, and thought it was strange, but I put my doubts aside and knew there must be a purpose to this book. As I read the book, I was amazed at the teachings and information, as so much of it described what I was going through. I had already been introduced to self-inquiry and shadow work, and I had had a very strange experience with making amends that unfortunately was during my spiritual psychosis. I guess the book was a vibrational match for what I was already in the midst of. The 12 steps are similar or complement what we call self-inquiry and shadow work. It's a deep dive into our soul and psyche. Prior to this book, I had a peripheral knowledge of the 12 steps, but hadn't given it any thought. Most of us think it's just for addicts, but aren't we all addicts to something to one degree or another? The 12 steps, in my opinion, could be taken by anyone in any walk of life. The 12 steps and the 4 agreements, done and done. The Recovery Bible is as big as the Bible, and yes, religious, but also mystical. What stood out for me were the people who had gone through their own suffering and came out on the other side. They were spiritually mature and full of wisdom. The dark night is an intense experience, and some things that happen are hard to believe, but not all of it can just be explained away by psychosis, which for most of us is just temporary. I read that the difference between clinical psychosis and spiritual psychosis is that there is an awareness. From my experience, what we hear during psychosis is coming from somewhere. Yes, our psyche, but in my opinion, not always from this lifetime. I personally believe that past lives and karma are involved. There's more than we know held in our DNA and our soul from other lifetimes. Other than a rough childhood that left me with some repressed emotions, my life was pretty normal, but things started happening to wake me up and make me face my dragons, which led me right into my dark night. It's hard being honest and authentic with ourselves, but we all have repressed one thing or another. We all have lingering ghosts from our childhood. We all have karma. And even though going through a dark night or the 12 steps can be tough, it's a way out of the pain body. The switch flips and we're awake and aware. Ultimately, I don't know why some of us experience this as we do and others don't. I don't know if it's predetermined or if our soul reaches a point on the incarnation wheel that says it's time. Not everyone awakens with a dark night or Kundalini activation, but in most cases it will involve suffering. Going through the process of a dark night is harsh and shocking, but also amazing. Without it, we may go the rest of our life completely unaware, stuck in the 3D egoic matrix. The good news is that we can come through and reach a point of no longer asking. Wasn't it Buddha that said, once he stopped trying, he reached enlightenment? Maybe when we stop asking, we get the answer, and the answer most likely will not be what we expect, or it won't even matter. There's enough to pay attention to in the now, with our place in the world and our place in the universe. So here are the 12 steps. Try not to take them too literally. Hear what they say to you. These are the original steps from Bill Wilson, but I think there are more updated and modern versions out there. Number 1, admit we are powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. Number 2, believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Number 3, make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to God as we understand Him. Number 4, make a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Nowadays we call that self-inquiry, or going within, facing our dragons. Number 5, admit to God and ourselves the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, be entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Number 7, humbly ask to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, Make a list of all the people we had harmed and become willing to make amends. Many now do this just on an energetic basis. Number 9, make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continue to take personal inventory. Number 11, seek through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him. And number 12, having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others.